All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behavior Bites. I am here today with the amazing Mariah Dudley, owner of Confident Canine Coach here in Richmond. Mariah is CPDT-KA certified through the certified profession. She's a certified professional dog trainer. Oh my God, my words. As well as a supporting member of the IAABC, the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, and a member of the APDT, Association of Professional Dog Trainers, which are all amazing organizations and really speak to your dedication for continuing education and science-based training, positive reinforcement. Mariah is, I have to say, like the person who is best at keeping me on my toes about continuing ed. You are always sending me so many amazing resources with so many amazing people. So I'm so grateful for you and really grateful that you're here today to talk about dogs and babies, which is just, as we're going to look at, such a hugely important topic that I don't think is discussed enough. So I'm really grateful to have you here, Mariah. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay! Let's dive right into things. So when is the best time to start preparing for a new baby?
So I would say right now, if you have found out you're pregnant, then the best time to start is pretty much right then. And if you find out you're pregnant during the first trimester, if you are the expectant birth parent, and you have a partner, you may want to pass off some of that responsibility to them, because making a baby is very hard work, especially in that first trimester. I hear a lot of people, anecdotally, but also, there is research behind that first trimester being very exhausting. And then, so if you have a partner who can work with your dogs, that's ideal until you hopefully get that second wind of energy during your second trimester. Not everybody gets it, but but hopefully you do. And that's a really good time for you, if you're the expectant birth parent, to start preparing your dog to the new baby, or for the new baby. I don't recommend waiting until the third trimester. A lot of people do, and that's normal, but your baby could come early. You're very uncomfortable as the baby takes up more space. And in my experience, discomfort means a little less patience. And you're not getting as much sleep because of hormonal changes that last trimester. There's a lot. And physical discomfort also being, and you're less likely to have the energy because of that lack of sleep, because of the hormonal changes and the physical discomfort during sleep, which again, leaves you with less patience to train, or less energy. And the third trimester leaves very little time if you run into any behavioral issues you think need to be addressed before baby comes. So start training right now.
Yeah. I think that's such helpful information because, I imagine there is just, speaking for those who don't know, Mariah is a mom to a beautiful baby how old is Cass?
He's 21 months, so that means he's almost 2. He's a wild one.
Yeah, such a sweetheart. And
Oh.
I do not have human children, so just so everyone understands the perspective of this too. So I think it's so important to have that information. I love that you've educated me so much too on the topics of dogs and babies, and it's so nice to, I think, understand, especially if you're a new parent, kind of what to expect and how that is going to impact your ability to work with your dog. That's probably not top of the list for everyone. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so I think that's such an important thing to kind of bring to the forefront, that let's plan this up front, when we're going to be feeling good, when we're going to be feeling bad, and how we can troubleshoot it. Not unlike we set up management and training plans for any behavioral scenario. So that's so helpful. That's good advice. So what should folks do, whether they're in their first trimester, they're in their third trimester, with what the time we have left or just the planning stages, what should people be doing to prepare?
Definitely. And there's so many great opportunities before baby comes to work on things, especially, um, people talk a lot about how tired you are, and you really are those first couple of months. So, um, the first thing to do would be to evaluate where your dog is with the following skills. So, manners, basics like sit, relax down on a mat or a bed, leave it, and some impulse control. Um, some crate or gate desensitization. Is your dog comfortable with separation? If they're not, seek out a trainer or a behavior consultant. I say always use gates, and then crating depends on the dog, as as a lot of behavior consultants know, and probably a lot of pet parents too. Um, Not all dogs will tolerate the crate, and and in with those gates, consider your floor plan and purchase gates now to get them used to them. Have a designated yes space for your dog and a yes space for your baby. So that means no babies in your dog's yes space and no dogs in your baby's yes space. So a place that is safe and happy. So not just you think it's safe, but does your dog think that place is safe? Um, Teach a flight cue. And I actually talk about two flight cues. So one of them is a hand target or touch. And that's really helpful if you've got two of you. But I also teach go or movement away. So go is, I have the baby and you need to give space away from me and baby. And then I mentioned separation training, but that one is big. So separation training, whether it's time away from your dog or your dog, not being able to access you, even though they can see you, different kinds. So even time in the hospital, if your dog isn't used to you being gone for, 2, 3, 4, however many days you may be gone. Yeah. And then the last thing that I talk about for before baby comes, not the last thing, there's a lot that can go into it, but the big ones are introduce baby items and use food to create positive associations, walking around, carrying a baby doll, not just for how your dog reacts, but just to get an idea of how holding a baby and how difficult it might be to navigate walking through the home holding a baby, especially if you've got gates up, because it will change how you hold yourself. Again, your dog might be curious about the doll at first, but they know that that's not a baby. I also like to talk about just crying baby sound desensitization, but with the caveat that, you know, if you play it and your dog like looks interested and then ignores it, you can try increasing the volume. There's a lot of different baby sounds out there on YouTube that you can use. But sometimes dogs just go, oh, that's the TV, or that's, they might be curious. Now, if they do seem unusually concerned, that is definitely when it's time to reach out to a trainer to work on that. So, and it depends on the dog. And it can also be helpful to have, depending on your dog and how they feel about strangers, or how they do at doggy daycare, but it can be helpful to have a dog walker or doggy daycare they are comfortable with, and they've, with doggy daycare they've been to, or a dog walker they've known for a little bit. Set that up ahead of time, get them used to it now. I know that you can't set up what days you'll be in the hospital unless you have a planned C-section, but having even having a friend that they know that can come take care of them while you're in the hospital, or family, that can be key. But once you're home, having that doggy daycare or that dog walker come back and give them some separation, give you some separation, and something that's normal.
Yeah.
And then I also like to bring up, considering the possibility, I hate to be, Debbie Downer or negative, but just to consider the possibility of a traumatic birth and how that may impact your physical ability to train once baby comes. So consider all scenarios, not to not to get into too much of the nitty gritty, but vaginal birth, tearing, C-section, emergency or non, nursing if you are able and want to. All of those things can influence what your house looks like, or how your home operates when you get home. So
Yeah, yeah, I think those are really excellent points, and I think what I'm hearing a lot, especially in that last part, is about support, right? And so what are kind of our best case scenarios? What are our worst case scenarios? And who's going to help? So, um, additional ways to provide physical exercise, mental enrichment. If your dog is going to be flooded with people at the house, some escape for your dog. If that's too much social time for them. So I love all of that. I think that those are some really great skills that can be generalized really well, or maybe that's not what I'm trying to say, that are very versatile. So that mat behavior, for example, right? Coming in clutch in so many different scenarios, a good leave it, a good go cue, like just give me space, move away, move back. Like these are things that I think, can be used in so many ways. And so I like that when your time is short, these are train this first.
yeah.
That's a great list. What about red flags? Or yellow flags, pink flags.
Yeah.
What are there any behaviors that you see initially in the consult in your intake forms and you go, okay, that's something we want to address before baby comes?
Definitely. And I actually put Velcro dogs at the top of my list. A lot of people, they're like, oh, my dog is so attached to me, but there could be nothing wrong. But those are the dogs that have a lot of the worst, I don't want to say reactions to a baby coming in, but just have the hardest time, because they're so used to being either with either parent in the house, or that it's hard for them to be so separate. And you really, if with a new baby, you are up every 2 hours. Um, so that can be challenging for Velcro dogs. So that's number one. Other things that I definitely want to at least address, and some require a behavior consultant on board for: resource guarding, high prey drive, over arousal in general, handling issues, poor impulse control, and dogs with noise sensitivity. So even if dogs were able to be counter conditioned easily, or even if they were desensitized to those baby sounds, that those baby crying YouTube videos, babies they get louder. um, so dogs with noise sensitivity can have a hard time with that change too. So those are the things that I like to flag and make sure that we discuss or have a plan in place and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great list. It's interesting what you said about, babies getting louder. And I think that's another thing, and you tell me if I'm off base here, but from my experience talking to pregnant folks, a lot of times I think because there is so much going on, if we're thinking that far ahead, it's about the baby, the infant, the baby coming home from the hospital. And it really is just kind of a blink of an eye, especially to your dog, when all of a sudden that infant is a baby and then that baby is a toddler, and those are different beasts, right? Suddenly the baby that was just in your arms or in a carrier and fairly predictable, right? So we've got our baby gates, we have some separation, we've got some active supervision going on, and the baby makes noise and is there, and the dog's like, all right, I figured this out. And now the baby's sitting up, the baby's rolling over, the baby's grabbing with their hands, and that's hard. So also, so I love that list, because I think you can think of things like resource guarding, for example, much easier to manage when the baby's not mobile than when you have a toddler, for example. So I think that's a great list of things that are really relevant for all these different stages, and are going to change in their relevance and their management, and what the dog needs to be prepared for as that baby grows. That's excellent. So, what do you think is most surprising? What tends to surprise people, since we're on the topic, in regards to their dog and their baby and this journey together?
I'd say how little time you really have to prepare is a big
Mhm.
one. Because that first trimester you're tired, and then that second trimester you might get that wonderful burst of energy, and then that third trimester comes in, and it feels like the longest stretch of time, but you don't necessarily want to do a whole lot of training. Um, so it kind of flies by, even if it doesn't feel like it physically sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
and then how quickly your baby becomes mobile. So like you mentioned earlier, some of those, a lot of people want to, have their dog and baby near each other, but um, your baby might be at the age where they're grabbing your hair and pulling, and they have no idea that that's bad, or painful, um, or that would hurt. So if your baby is pulling your hair, then you shouldn't be having your baby pet your dog. Um, and it's a really good rule of thumb. There should be no petting of animals if your baby's still yanking your hair, because it can happen really quick.
Oh.
They just they get a hold of it, and it's fast. So how quickly they become mobile, how exhausting those first couple of months are. Sometimes new parents feel like they're failing their dogs because they may not be getting the attention that they need. But just keep in mind it's temporary. Um, so I've actually seen family paws talk about the rehoming phase that some parents go through, where they feel like they should rehome their dog, and just take a breath. Again, it's temporary. You will be able to spend more time with your dog again, and call that dog walker or take your dog to doggy daycare. Um, get them, or find other ways if those aren't appropriate things for your dog. Um, and then, so for difficult births, more common than I feel like people realize, your physical and emotional energy is tapped. So you may have experienced some trauma. So be prepared for that possibility, and have someone on call that you can
Mm.
rely on. Join a mom group ahead of baby's arrival, and reach out if you need to. Veteran moms and veteran parents love to help new parents. Um, so that can be a really helpful resource. And, a lot of them have dogs. So, they may watch baby for you and let you take your dog on a walk, or maybe they'll take your dog on a walk for you if your dog can handle that. Um,
Yeah.
but those are the things that surprise people the most, I think, is just how overwhelming it can be, and those emotions that come in. And both non-birth and birth parents will get those, those ups and downs, those oxytocin highs, and then those lows, and that massive sleep deprivation and hypervigilance. Um,
Mm.
sorry. Um, it's kind of unavoidable. So, um, so yeah,
A roller
and
coaster for
I think,
everyone.
oh, sorry. I hear one thing that I've heard a lot of new parents say: they get the advice of sleep when baby sleeps, and they're just so surprised how it doesn't work. Um, and they're surprised that they get that advice a lot. And I
Mhm.
mean, maybe some folks can do that, but a lot of new parents are in that hypervigilance where even when they do have that chance to rest, they're like, they have so much adrenaline and so much sleep deprivation that they can't sleep. So, uh,
Yeah, yeah. We see that
definitely.
with dogs sometimes in the throes of a hard time, and it's this horrible spiral. Um,
Similar.
yeah, yeah. I think that's what an excellent point. It reminds me of in canine enrichment for the real world, they talk about I think they abbreviate it CPUPs or something cute like that, but it's this idea that people will get, they learn about what their dogs need in terms of like species specific enrichment and that sort of thing, and get so overwhelmed that they aren't providing enough for their dog that they actually think my dog would be better off somewhere else, even though they're doing way above the normal bar. And I can so see how that would apply here in the throes of overwhelm and the emotions running high and the transition and the change. And so I love that you bring up that point that like, you're doing great. This is temporary. This is an adjustment for everyone, and bring on that support early. Um, and, in terms of external support, in terms of, I often encourage my clients, make a plan, right? So if that means like having 30 stuffed Kongs to get you through the month, so you can reach in and just pull out, make things easy. If right now you're a parent that is, does these extravagant enrichment activities with your dog, how are you going to make that simple? There are easier ways too to meet everyone's needs. And so I love that, one, that reassurance that this too shall pass. And two, that it is okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for support. It's really actually preferred, and do it early on. I love the idea of reaching out to a group, and people who have been through this sort of thing, and are ready to help and lend their support. I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful. So what should folks expect? The day is here. We've done all this preparing. Baby is coming home. What happens now? What is that next tangible step?
I actually want to jump back to something that you just said that I thought was really good. And I talk about, and I didn't think it might, I wasn't sure if it would fit in here, but just the part of planning ahead is actually getting your dog used to not spending as much time with you. And it seems, it seems harsh, but at the same time, it's way harsher if your dog is, you're spending all your time with them, which is part of that separation training, but also just, maybe not walking them every single day, or, like taking that step back to getting them used to a little bit less enrichment. Again, not permanently, but just so they're not, the super fancy, enrichment going to just a Kong. For some, Kongs are great for some dogs, but if they're used to this higher level, you might want to bring it down a little bit, just to set those expectations.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. It reminds me of, like endurance athletes, right? Like if you have a dog that you exercise until they need 5 miles a day, that's not going to go well when there's an infant in the home.
Yeah, when it's winter or it's rainy or it's gross, yeah, not going to go well. Yeah. Back to the topic though. Sorry about that detour.
No, great.
So for bringing baby home, the first thing is don't rush introductions. So have a plan, but be flexible. If it's too soon for introductions, when you first arrive home, if you're feeling uncomfortable, anything just feels weird, or you're just too tired, that's fine. Wait until you are comfortable. Again, that's keeping in mind crate gate, set, keeping that set up in your home in mind too. But wait until you're comfortable, and never, ever, ever allow a dog access to a baby's head. Those Instagram cute pictures are cute, but they're not worth it.
Yeah. I want to say that I want to like bold and highlight what you just said. Can we just never allow the dog access to your baby's head? And I think we get such, like you said, such a different message on social media. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to bold and underline and highlight that.
Yeah, it's that's when there's like the mom and dog trainer side of me that's like, don't do that. That's so dangerous. I mean, anything could happen, just anything. So it's not worth it. Figure out ways to safely include your dog from the beginning. So if you're able to keep everyone safe and comfortable, inclusion can look like your dog being able to see you through a gate. It doesn't have to be inclusion like right next to you on the couch. Some clients have found success letting the dog see baby through the crib. I don't generally recommend animals in the nursery, but I made an exception for a client that had been working really hard, and I trusted them and their levels of, their expectations and their ability to manage the situation. So it depends on the dog. And so, the dog was able to see, the baby safely through the crib. That was that made them comfortable, the dog was comfortable, and everything was safe. In general, I like to have that as a yes space, a no dog access space, but as a one time when they first get home, you kind of have to weigh your options there. Um, and again, allow your dogs to witness how your baby changes so it's not a shock when they go from rolling over to crawling to walking, or, the different noises that they make, because they really change. And it's not just volume, it's just so different as they grow and change. And again, using gates, if you're not comfortable letting your dog close to you so your dog can see the baby, that one's big. Because you don't want your dog to not feel a part of the family. And you want your dog to be able to witness those things, and witness your baby grow, but safely. And that, going back to that support system, so have folks you can count on to help you take a break, take a nap, take a decompression walk with your dog. The biggest thing that I want to leave with for that first couple of weeks, and not even couple of weeks, actually, this is just always really, especially when your child is an infant, but even through toddlerhood, 100% awake, alert supervision is vital during that newborn phase. I don't recommend dogs in the room of a nursing parent who is by themselves. Breastfeeding releases, especially breastfeeding releases a hormone that can cause drowsiness, especially in those early phases, because you're already tired and you're up all the time. And then that hormone gets released and you're like knocked. So I would definitely have another person or a partner if you have gotten to the point where your dog can settle in the same room with you and your baby. Have somebody else in that room, just in case you start to nod off, because it happens. Yeah, 100% awake, alert supervision. And
I love
don't
that.
let
Yeah.
your dog near your baby's head. Those two.
Right.
If you leave
The
with
big
nothing else, those two.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's important because, it's so important to be specific there. Awake, alert, active supervision. That's different than, nodding off potentially, certainly, but it's also different than, trying to, as you're overwhelmed and you have all these tasks, like it's also different than trying to answer that email and supervise. It's different than, trying to multitask there. You're going to miss nuances in body language, especially when you're getting to that toddler phase and babies are fast. But you don't want to miss a lip lick, a side eye, whale eye, your dog's discomfort. And I believe, that you recommend also that, a lot of times parent in between, right? So especially with that baby, this isn't like tummy time on the floor for everyone together.
Yeah, that tummy time, I would say, I would involve a yes space for that, or like you said, parent in between. As they get a little bit older, a parent in between can be an arm, but when they're a newborn, a parent in between, like not just your hand or your arm. So
Yeah,
um,
excellent.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, Mariah, this has been absolutely amazing. I always learn so much myself every time we chat. Thank you so much for being here. This is just, I'm still just like digesting some of this great information. So summing all of this great information up, what message do you want to leave our audience with? If you have a call to action, and let us know where we can find you and all of your awesome stuff. And folks, Mariah is my go-to. If you are having a baby, if you are thinking about having a baby, if you are getting ready to have a baby, if you've just had a baby, Mariah, hit up Mariah. Obviously, full of really important information and can just make this journey, because the goal is healthy relationships, right? And so I just think seeking that outside help is invaluable. So I'm sorry, I'll let you answer the question.
No, that's such a good point. The goal really is those healthy relationships. keep your dog safe by keeping your baby safe, and vice
Mm,
versa. So your dog may be your first baby, but your baby is your baby now. But to keep your dog safe, you have to keep your baby safe. Um, so that's the big one.
yeah.
Management and prevention is key. So if you haven't had time to practice all of those skills, gates are your friend. Desensitize that gate. That's
Yes.
the most important thing you can do. And like you said, it's all about healthy relationships. So your child has their whole life to develop a beautiful relationship with animals. Set them up now for the best possible outcome by keeping everyone safe and teaching them how best to interact with dogs. There's absolutely no need to rush them or your dog into a situation neither is prepared for. That perfect Instagram pic is not worth it. Dog and baby safety is really part of baby proofing. I mean, that's true. Like that is a piece of it. You know, you wouldn't you you don't want to let your baby get into like the soap under the sink or the unhealthy chemicals under the sink either. So, you know, keep your baby safe. Baby proof the house, baby proof the house by keeping everybody safe with dogs and baby prep too. And then the last thing I would say is reach out to a trainer or behavior consultant ASAP if you need help. So even if it's after the fact, it's never too late to ask for help. And
Yes.
and you can find me at confidentcaninecoach.com. I do new rescue, new puppy prep, dogs and baby prep, pack hikes, private lessons for basic manners, and some behavior modification. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, Mariah, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, folks, Mariah is just amazing, an incredible colleague, really dedicated to continuing education. I'm always getting amazing resources from you. It's fantastic. And absolutely my dogs and baby go-to here in RVA. I mean, oh my gosh, just absolutely fantastic. This has been amazing. Mariah, thank you so much. We're definitely going to have to do this again. I really appreciate you being here and talking with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.